Hello. Today we're going to be talking about photo assignments. Basically, we're going to look at what your role would be in a news organization if you were a photo editor or a photographer, and seeing about how they get to finding story ideas for you to shoot, to see what kind of photo assignments that are out there, because there are certain sources that news agencies go back to time and time again. And in this case, it's a little different from, say, a news editor or an assignment editor. We have to think visually when we think about sending out photojournalists or being a photojournalism editor or assignments editor. So let's start by looking at where some of these ideas come from. First, most news organizations will have a scanner, an emergency scanner. It'll scan police frequencies, ambulance, fire stations, so they'll know what's going on as soon as the first responders know what's going on. And it's a good way to get to some of these breaking stories as soon as anyone knows about them, except for those who are involved in it. So always good to have one of those. I have been told that there are phone apps for scanners and such. I've never tried one, but if you happen to work for a big news organization and find yourself in the position of giving out assignments, definitely see about getting yourself a scanner. Public relations departments, what they do is they try to get the media to cover their events, their organization, their individuals. So there's a symbiotic relationship between public relations and journalism. And of course, these public relations practitioners are going to have assignments that are visual, events that they are throwing on, or perhaps something they're doing in the community. So checking in with the PR departments of local businesses, local organizations that are important to your community, always a good source for a news story. Newspapers, even if you're on a newspaper, picking up the competition's paper. If you're in the radio, picking up the newspaper. If you're in broadcast, picking up the radio and seeing what they're covering. Not only ongoing, but they may be a story in there about a future event. So good source for news because, well, that's what it is. It's a source for news. So don't discount the newspapers, especially dailies, in any way. And sometimes in those newspapers and in magazines and such, the ads will tell you what's going on. If there's a new business opening, the new business is going to take out an ad. If there's an event coming up, the organization is going to take out an ad. So looking at the ads for ideas for photo assignments, perfectly good idea. And I've actually gotten a lot of good stories by looking at ads rather than the stories themselves. It used to be that the most important sources that a reporter would have, photojournalism or otherwise, would be a phone book, because it has all those contacts in there, but also your own Rolodex, basically a little index card organizer for people that their business cards. You just kind of paste them in there or write down their name, who they're from, and how to contact them, be it email or a phone number. So, a good reporter always had a good Rolodex, a good source of different contacts. Today we have an app on our phone called Contacts, and whenever you meet someone, you should put their name in there, their contact information, and if you have a slow day and you need a idea for a good photo story, contact those people, see what's going on in their world, and if they're the right type of people, they will always have some kind of idea for you for a good photo story. Also, back in the day, we would have something called beats. A reporter would be assigned a certain topic area, such as the courts or crime or the environment or religion. And that's what you did every day. Was if you were doing the court beat, you would go to the courts and see what was on the docket for the day, what's going on, and that would become your source for an assignment. Same thing with crime. You go to the police station, see what happened last night, see what is going on when you get there. Talk to the different people on your beat, the different officers, supervisors. They'll let you know what's going on in their world. Let's talk about the difference between photographers and reporters. Today, there is no difference. The reporter is the photographer is the reporter. But if you happen to work with a big publication maybe, or say a magazine that divvies up the tasks between writing the story and taking the photos, there's a few things you have to remember. One, you have to work as a team. Don't assume the reporter is going to go out and do their own work and then the photographers are going to do their own work. It's going to make for a sloppy presentation no matter what media you're working in. So you need to work as a team. You need to work with each other, know how you're going to cover the story, what angles you're taking, who are in the story, who isn't in the story. This way you end up with a good, solid product, a one-voice product, rather than two totally different, products that don't work together. So you got to work as a team. Now, when you are out on assignment, it's always good to keep an eye on each other. If a reporter is talking to a certain person, as a photographer, you should go and take a picture of that person. If it seems that the reporter is spending a lot of time at an event over at certain booths, you should spend your time over at that booth. Of course, do your own job and, go out and make sure everything is covered, and, you get good storytelling photos. But at the same time, keep an eye on each other. And also, if a photographer sees something going on, like trouble, it's always good to grab your reporter and then, flee the area. That way, the reporter is concentrating on their notes, concentrating on talking to an individual. They're not looking around where a photographer is. So keep each other out of trouble. It's a nice thing to do. All right, do your own jobs. I already mentioned that. Don't take a photo and then go to the reporter and say, oh, go get their name and address because I took a photo of them. No, that's your job. In the same way, the reporter shouldn't come over to you and say, I've been talking to that lady over there, go shoot a picture of her. So, they have a job to do, you have a job to do, do your own work. You can help each other out, of course, but, no need for you to have to take a quick mug shot. A reporter can do that with, their phone, and it'll work just fine. When you go to an event or anything that might be ongoing, it's good to get involved early. If the reporter is planning on something, planning a package, planning on doing something over several days, don't wait till the last moment to become part of the story. If you're assigned, work with this reporter on this story, don't wait a couple days. Go over there and talk to that reporter right away and say, okay, how are you covering it? How can I help you? How can you help me? That way, early on, if there's any problems, you can adjust as you go along instead of waiting till the last minute and then not having a good product to show to the public. Make your own appointments. Don't expect the reporter to make your assignments for you. Don't expect your editor to make your assignments for you. You know what your schedule is. You make your appointment. And sometimes you do have to work alone. The reporter is not going to be there with you, or maybe you are the reporter. So have the skill set to be able to do everything that would be involved in covering this assignment. If it's writing, know how to write a simple inverted pyramid story. If it's doing a slideshow, know how to capture audio also, as well as capturing pictures. have all of this in, your toolbox of skills. So when you go out there, you can work alone without having to rely on others. Shooting. How do you go about shooting any assignment? Well, mentioned early on that our job is to tell stories with photos. And how you do that is you go out and shoot people. Well, not in that way, but take photos of people doing interesting actions, or any action whatsoever, from interesting angles. That's the whole course right there. Hopefully these people will be interesting, and the fact that you are shooting them for assignment inherently makes them interesting. So shoot interesting people from interesting angles doing interesting actions, or interesting people doing interesting actions from interesting angles. However you want to word it, that is the whole course in a nutshell. Always take an establishing shot, show the scene that what you're shooting comes from. If it's a basketball game, shoot the whole arena, shoot the court, shoot the team getting ready, something that tells you the time and place of the event with your photo. Most of your shots are going to be medium shots, a normal range, maybe 10 feet away, showing what's going on. That's going to be your bread and butter. And, definitely shoot a lot of photos. Make sure you get that establishing shot. But, then, go out and take a whole bunch of medium shots. Once in a while, you want to take a good close-up, get expression on people's faces, the look in their eyes. That alone tells a story, being able to see a person's face. And I know when you start shooting, you're going to shoot a lot of the back of people's heads, people walking away from you. That doesn't tell a story. Get close in, but get close into their face, close into what they're doing, that action that they're doing. And if you can't physically get closer, use that telephoto lens to get closer. You do want to try interesting angles, shoot high, stand on a table, a chair, a ladder, get things from a bird's eye view, get down on the ground, shoot under things, shoot up, from the worm's eye view. And it just by changing the angles will make the shot a little more interesting than just straight ahead at, 5'6" across, try a little higher, a little lower, try shooting through things, under things, over things. It'll just add variety and make the images more compelling. And sometimes, especially when you're in a crowd, you may have to shoot blind. We used to call this shooting from the hip, where you're not looking through the viewfinder, you're not looking at what you're taking the photo of. You're literally holding the camera over your head and shooting pictures of what's going on. You won't be able to see what's going on until later, but you might be able to get that really good shot that you can't see because you're in a crowd, you're behind something, you're behind someone, you're shooting around a corner that you're not allowed to go around. Did I say that? Yes, I did say that. You never know, and since ones and zeros are cheap on SD cards, take a chance, shoot from those different angles. Just some tips on going to an assignment. One, always get there early, shoot what's going on in the setup, when people arrive, when the event, the moment is first happening. Sometimes that's the whole story. Also, stay late. Just because the event officially is over, there's other stories that are going on. Taking down of items, the leaving of guests, just the saying goodbye to other people. That can be a story in and of itself too. So if you're thinking a photographer just comes in, takes a few shots and leaves, that's not true. Photographers and reporters, we get there early, we stay for the whole event, and we stay late. And when we're there, we shoot a lot. a half-hour event, if you shoot 150 photos, you may not be shooting enough. This summer I was going around to 12 different venues, staying a half hour at each place, and shooting a bunch of pictures there. If I came home with 300 photos, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. So, go out there, shoot a lot, and yeah, you may only use 5% of the photos that you take, 1% of the photos you take, but that one good shot that tells the story you really want to tell, you may not get it taking 5 shots. You may get it taking 6 shots, 10 shots, 100 shots. So once again, ones and zeros are cheap, so go out there and shoot. Now, I do believe in continuous shots, or even better, the 3-shot burst. You can set up your camera so as long as you have the shutter down, it'll keep shooting. This is excellent for action, for sports. How I usually set up my camera is for a 3-picture burst. So when I press down on my shutter, it'll take 3 pictures in a row. And I can't tell you how many times where the picture 1 and picture 2 are okay, but picture 3 was the perfect shot. So when you get to an event, again, to any type of assignment, always be polite. You don't want to stand out, so dress appropriately for the event. I mean, if it's a tie and coat affair, wear a tie or coat, a nice dress. If it's an outdoor event, get bundled up, especially on a cold January day. So you don't want to stand out. You don't want to be the focus of attention. You want to be blend in, so people aren't staring at you taking photos, because those don't make good photos. And go about your business. Don't get tied up in the event. Don't get tied up in the action that's going around. You're an observer, not a participant. So that's what you need to know about photo assignments. Next thing we'll talk about is actually doing news assignments.